Alright everyone, so welcome back. Now I know it's been a while since I've had a new tutorial, but we've been really busy here in the NAP Labs doing a lot of new CS5 stuff, and that's what we're going to talk about this week is just yet another sneak peek into the really cool 3D features that are going to be coming out in CS5, and specifically with 3D text. This is something we've been yearning for some time in Photoshop, and now we finally have the ability to create and edit 3D text right here inside Photoshop. Now, what I mean by edit is being able to modify textures and lights and things like that. The really kind of bad part is when you convert a text layer into a 3D layer, it rasterizes the text. So it's probably a good idea to make a duplicate of your text layer before you go ahead and convert it into the 3D text. Now, before I do that, I actually want to apply a texture to this text. I'm going to do that before I create the 3D object. So let's go in here into the layer style menu. And I'm going to go down here. It does go off screen here, but it's down here. We're going to choose Pattern Overlay. And the pattern we're going to use is actually one I've already defined. It was an image of some steel rivets. As you can see in the preview right there, it's just a few panels with some rivets in it that I gotten off of iStock Photo. And all I'm going to do there is actually take the scale down to about 30%. And if I move the window out of the way here, you can see I can move that texture around inside of here to get the best placement possible. And what I'm looking for is to get as much of these rivets and lines in here in the text as much as I can. And if you haven't guessed already, this is actually inspired by a Hubble telescope ad that I saw online recently. It was really cool, and it used 3D text in a very subtle but very effective way. All right, so I've got the texture applied on here. Let's go ahead and click OK. And now we're ready to go ahead and make the 3D text. So with the text layer selected, you're going to go under the 3D menu and go down here to this new item, Repoussé, and choose Text Layer. And what it's going to do is go ahead and apply a default extrusion to the text, and then it's going to open up the Repoussé panel. There it is. So you can see the text is now in 3D. You can grab any of these tools on the side here, any of the mesh tools, and maneuver that 3D object in 3D space. How cool is that? Just that fast to create 3D text inside Photoshop. So let's take it back to the home position, and let's apply a couple of things here. Now, I'm not going to have time, of course, to cover every single item inside this Repoussé panel, but rest assured, I'm going to have a lot of really cool 3D tutorials in the coming months when CS5 actually ships and people really start using it. But what we're going to do here in this exercise is go in here into the extrude section and modify a few things. I'm actually going to take the depth of this extrusion down to about 0.7. Because 1 is the default, which is the default there. If we want to go lower than that, we actually go to a fraction, which in this case would be 7/10 of that. Now, what I'm going to do now is go into the scale setting and go in here and actually drop that to about... Now we'll do about 0.5. And you can see the scale has dropped dramatically on the other side. And if I just take this and rotate it around, you can see that the extrusion on the other side gets smaller as it extrudes back in space. Now, that's all good. Let's go take that back to the home section. And actually, I don't want to have it at 1. 0.5 was a bit much. So I'm actually going to take it to like 0.8. And it brings that size down a little bit. Now, if I just turn this around again, you'll see that it's scaling down, and you'll notice we've got this little box around this box around our object. It gives us an idea, or helps with the orientation of our 3D object. But it's scaling toward the center of that back face there, and that's because of this setting right here inside the Repoussé panel, which determines the anchor point. So if I set this to the bottom, it will actually anchor it to the bottom line of that object. And if I go in here and bring it back to the home position and just use my rotation tool and just drag this up so we can see that, now we're seeing that extrusion, and it's a bit exaggerated because of that scale setting we've applied. So that's looking pretty good. The only thing I'm going to do left is go over here to the bevel section and add a little bit of a bevel to this text. Let's actually set this to about a height of 4 and a width of 4. And you can see the edge, a little beveled edge it gives me on that text. Looks pretty good. And I think that's all I'm going to do in this section here. We've already got our texture applied to the face. I'm going to go ahead and leave the extruded sides on that gray color that they're setting. And it picked that gray color actually came from the foreground color, which is set here in my toolbar. It just picked that color up and applied it to the extrusion there. So now with all that in place, I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. And there is my 3D text now fully edited and in place. Now the last thing I want to do is go up here into the 3D panel and go over here to the far right and choose the light bulb icon so we can go into the lights section. And let's go in here and create a new spotlight. And it's going to appear on there, and you can see it illuminating the object, but it's a little hard to see the light itself. So let's go into the little icon here and turn on the wireframe for the 3D light, for that spotlight. And there it is right there. It's that wireframe cone right there. So we can go over here and grab our 3D pan tool and actually slide the light across the area here and just rotate it in 3D space. And we'll just back it up here. And there you can see it's illuminating that text very nicely. I'm actually going to increase the intensity of it to about 3 and then press enter. And you can see it gets considerably brighter on there. And if I go in here and just grab the light rotation, you can see how it's illuminating the object and leaving some shadow areas. Very nice. So now, in order to see the effects that we've applied here and see the shadows, you have to go into the ray traced render mode. Now, for the purposes of demonstration here, I'm going to just go into the scene section. Down here, we have the quality menu, and they've moved the ray tracer into this menu here, and you have two settings, ray traced draft and ray traced final. Well, you're not going to really use final until you actually finish whatever it is you're doing. But if you want to get a quick preview of your artwork, you simply choose Ray Trace Draft. And like a regular 3D application, it's going to do this little render box and render the shadows and reflections, if you've applied them, of whatever object you've created. And there you can see I'm getting nice clean lines, and it's rendering the shadows that are being cast by these letters. And we're getting true 3D text, shadows, and reflections if you apply them, and we'll talk about that in another tutorial. But you can see the ease of actually creating 3D text and applying textures and editing them all right inside Photoshop. And this is, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg for what's possible with this new feature. And like I said, I'm going to have a lot more stuff coming here on Planet, and of course I've got an entire course over at Kelby Training Online on mastering 3D with Photoshop CS5. That is available now online, and you can check it out there. And I hope you enjoy that and enjoy the new 3D features in Photoshop CS5. Oh, and I do have to kind of put this at the tail end here, this little footnote. These 3D features are only in the extended version of Photoshop. Photoshop CS5 Extended. They will not be available in the standard version, just so you know that.